Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the JayNReg No Pause podcast. And we got a special guest today. What's going on, Jay?
Man, the legend is here, man. The legend is here. Without further ado, man, a good friend of mine.
Why are you looking around?
Said a legend was here. I'm looking for him.
Another legend is here. In addition to a good friend of mine, man, we go back and forth, man. Believe you me, man. There's gonna be some topics talked about, and I'm pretty sure some disagreements on this thing. But the legend himself, Uncle B is what I call him, Mr. Byron Jenkins. Y'all give him
Uncle B, give him a round of applause.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you guys. I'm very excited to be here. Hey, let's get it cracking.
Hey, I like that.
That means if you say let's get it cracking, that means you done watched the show a couple times.
I love the show. I've watched it. I've dissected. I've broken it down. I've evaluated it.
That's what I'm talking about. I like that.
Text me about stuff we doing right, not doing right. You know, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I got interrupted in the grocery store trying to get some groceries.
That's real. That's real. I ran down on you. I ran down on you. You hear me? So tell me this here. Where'd you get the name Uncle B from? Where does Uncle B come from?
Man,
For those that want to know.
Uncle B comes from Dr. Fitzhill.
Okay.
Actually, it was a name that he gave me. We do a recruiting intelligence report show, and
right.
And he said everybody needs this little character or whatever. Yeah. So he created Uncle B. And I think at first the B was like a bee because it stings you.
Okay.
Because I would say a lot of things that would just sting.
Touch some souls,
Touch some souls. So and that B was black and gold. And, you know, Dr. Hill's an alpha and I'm an alpha. So that little B thing, right?
Well, I'm sorry. Respect. And, you know, you mentioned that I was going to try to not, you know, bring it up and all that stuff. But, yeah, Unc is the alpha. And y'all know I represent the good brothers. And so I just want, I've got, and, a couple people have been like, y'all need some decorations up there. So, you know what I decided to do? I started to
Here we go.
I said, man, let me make sure that this we looking good up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put these right here just to show a little love to the good brothers and all that. So we got a little decoration. So you got your alpha cup, right? You said you threatened me, said you're gonna bring a touch of alpha up here. So I said, hey, look, well, we at my office. I got some paraphernalia too, so we just gonna put that there.
Hey, now that we all feel comfortable,
yeah.
I feel real comfortable.
We good. Yeah. Uncle B, man. So yeah. So Uncle B, one of the things that me and Jay came up with that one of our namesakes is that we like to talk about sports, life, and
whatever the hell else is going on.
So we try to get into all different types of aspects and that sort of thing. Lately, we've been strictly, covering basketball because it's basketball season. Mm-hmm. It's that time of year, so forth and so on. So tell me a little bit about what your inspiration is as far as your involvement in sports and that sort of thing. I have some ideas of a couple of things I want to ask you, but just tell me a little bit about your background and that sort of thing. Share with the people.
I mean, my inspiration is I grew up, in Little Rock,
okay.
And sports was a big part of my neighborhood, and I grew
What neighborhood is that?
21st and Lewis.
Wow.
So right in the middle of banging in Little Rock.
Right.
So there's banging going on all the blocks around us, but on this particular
I'm from the east side.
On this particular block, we were ballers.
Okay.
And I guess at that time you was either gonna be a baller in the street or a baller, in athletics. And I just happened to grow up on a block where the OG, quote unquote, the older guy, the influencer, in my neighborhood was a sports fanatic.
Okay.
So he encouraged us all to play sports. We would all go up there. So that's where my inspiration comes from and helping kids. And it's so I credit it for saving my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
I credit sports for, saving my life.
That's real.
And so I've always wanted to give back. And I feel like the best way to help young people is through sports. It's the best teacher of life.
Absolutely. And I would have to say that, we're in total agreement. When I say we as a whole, because myself and Jason, we talk about stuff like that all the time, how sports has impacted us to the point where we are today, how it continues to impact us. You know what I'm saying? Jason having a student athlete right now that he's raising, and the impact that he has to have on him, and the impact that it has on him. You know what I'm saying? That sort of thing. So I get it 100%. I get it 100%.
So, man, we talk about, who you are, kind of how you're how you're into NIL and stuff like that. I guess that's a good starter. And what is NIL? What exactly?
What is it? Yeah, I'd like to know what it is.
What are we doing here?
I mean, NIL is basically name, image, and likeness, and it's an athlete's right to own his name, image, and likeness. It's an athlete's right to make a buck from his brand and to profit from his platform.
And technically, it's always been that way, but they've always had these guidelines in place to keep the athletes from doing so.
Yeah, for some unknown reason, and that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
The athlete is the only person really who has been stripped of his name, image, and likeness. If you think about it, if you're an entertainer, if you're in the 10th grade and you go to Little Rock Central High School and you're a singer, you can sing at a concert, you can sell T-shirts with your image on it, and
right.
You can still be in the Central High Choir, and there's nothing wrong with it.
As an amateur.
As an amateur.
Yeah, as an amateur.
But when it comes to or if you're a drummer or a piano player, nobody's restricted but athletes. And I, like I said, that's a whole nother show on why athletes have always been restricted. But for some reason, we didn't own our name, image, and likeness. And thanks to Ed O'Bannon from UCLA, I mean, everybody at Arkansas, they broke our hearts that year in the national championship game. And he took it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court comes back and said, hey, what you guys are doing is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And they deemed it.
Do y'all remember that college basketball game with the O'Bannon boys on it?
I definitely do.
I mean, them boys, man, that game was off the chain.
And it made a lot of money.
It made a lot of money.
So it's all about money and this quote unquote amateur term. And once the Supreme Court comes and tells the NCAA that what you're doing is unconstitutional, you're the only company in the country that gets free labor.
Mm-hmm. Free labor.
Exactly right.
And once the NCAA heard the Supreme Court with their ruling, they hurry up and gave, hey, we're gonna give athletes their NIL, because eventually they know that they're breaking all kind of antitrust laws or labor laws, and they're gonna eventually end up having to pay the players.
So when you say NIL, name, image, and likeness, and just breaking it down into very basic layman's terms, that's, for instance, if I'm 9th grade, 10th grade in whatever school, I can use Jason Lanier and make $1 off of it. That's basically what you're saying. They've allowed us to make dollar off of my name.
Well, yes, but not a 9th grader, because in the state of Arkansas, college athletes can use their NIL or profit off their name, image, and likeness, but high school kids still can't.
In this state.
Now, there's 30 other states that allow it. And the Supreme Court has already said it's unconstitutional, but for some reason, the state of Arkansas still says that you can't do it, but they do it.
The jurisdiction falls statewide.
Yeah, it's
statewide,
rather than federal.
federally.
And our AAA says that our high school athletes can use their NIL, but if you go to a high school state championship, which we all will be there in Hot Springs,
that's a fact.
We'll see people walking around selling pictures of the players in jerseys with their uniforms on, and they'll sell it to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, wait a minute. A parent can't sell a picture of her child or his or her son playing, but AAA can sell a picture, which is that athlete's name, image, and likeness. Now make sense.
So you're telling me Arkansas can't have NIL kids, high school kids.
High school kids.
But Texas can, or Missouri
no,
can.
No, Texas can't. Louisiana can. Oklahoma can. Tennessee can.
So neighboring states of ours, for instance, Louisiana. Who else you say?
Tennessee, Oklahoma, Missouri.
So there's thousands upon thousands of kids that are next door to us that can take advantage of these things, but we can't.
We can't.
That's interesting. So I read something this week. Something came out this week that Supreme Court dropped about. Let's delve into that, because the more and more I was excited this week when I knew you were gonna be a guest on the show, because a lot of this NIL stuff I really don't understand. I'm trying to do my due diligence on trying to find a little bit more about it, make myself understand it. But it looks like the Supreme Court came out this week and made it unconstitutional, because the NCAA was what word am I using? The NCAA was put penalties on schools that were using NIL specifically for recruiting, and the Supreme Court came back and said, no, that's unconstitutional.
Yeah. So basically what the NCAA does is the same thing that AAA does. Yeah. They try to make you think that rules are laws. So when they gave athletes their NIL rights, they said, hey, we're going to make these rules. And one of the rules was that at a college or an institution couldn't entice a recruit with NIL money.
NIL.
So you couldn't say, hey, if you come to Arkansas or if you come to Tennessee or Virginia, then we'll give you $200,000 or $300,000. They said, the NCAA said you couldn't do that. So they put that stipulation on NIL.
Tennessee was one of the ones that
Now, of course, everybody was doing it.
Sure. Right, absolutely.
Everybody was having that conversation. Their collective groups, whether it was the collective group or the coaches, everybody was having that conversation. So the NCAA, for some reason, they pick on Tennessee and Virginia, and they say, hey, we're going to show everybody, we're going to teach everybody a lesson because you violated the rules. We know you violated the rules, and we're going to put some sanctions on you. And Tennessee was like, well, it's already, the Supreme Court has already said it's unconstitutional. Right. So how can you put stipulations on labor laws like that? So they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court comes back and tells the NCAA, we already told y'all what y'all was doing is unconstitutional. There's no such thing as an NIL rule.
So right now at this moment, it's wide open.
It's wide open.
It's wide open right here today.
It's wide open right here today.
You said a word that I've been learning a lot about this past spring and in the fall that just passed was the collective, right? And that's separate than the NIL. So we get what the NIL is, name, image, and likeness. Now the collective, help us out with that.
Yeah, so basically collective is just boosters. Putting their money in a pot and collecting boosters, collecting money and putting it in a pot and we're giving it to the players.
That's funny because they've always done it.
Now they've always done it, but it's always been taboo.
Right.
Boosters have always been taboo in college sports. So why all of a sudden we're going to give athletes their NIL, but we're also going to allow boosters to come into the game now? You know why they did that?
Why's that?
Talk to me.
So because they really didn't want athletes to build their brand. They don't want athletes spending time building their brand. They want you to focus on their brand. Because
they want they're student athletes.
They want you as student athletes. They don't want you out doing a whole bunch of commercials, autograph signing. So
doing podcasts.
Let's doing podcasts. Let's bring back the boosters and let's allow the boosters to just pay the players. And they pay them, and then we say, "Oh, you just tweet this out, or you tweet this out, or go to do this or that."
So the signings, signature signings, or post as many posts per month, per year, that type of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that because we don't want the athletes focused on building their brand. So they allowed the boosters to come back in. So now every university, major university, their boosters, they have a collective group. And they want everybody to pour into this one pot, and they issue it out to the student athletes.
So how does that affect, or will that affect the university at some point?
There's rules in place.
And the reason why I said, I'm sorry to cut you off, because now instead of person giving, you don't want to double dip.
Yeah.
In terms of fundraising, thinking about it from a grand scheme of things, the organization, let's just say the University of Virginia. Right, they have a certain amount of boosters that give money to the school, and now you're saying to put it in a collective. How is that going to affect that university long term?
They already have things in place where when people think about the University of Arkansas, let's bring it close to home.
Sure.
When people think about the University of Arkansas, they say Arkansas got money. We got Walmart, but Walmart doesn't put into a collective group. Walmart can't participate in the NIL. That was one of the first things the university said. If a organization or booster or company already gives to the university, then they can't
be part of the collective as well.
But but you can make it another LLC though, right? You can say instead of it being Walmart, you can say it's now the Walton Foundation. You know what I'm saying? You can find loopholes.
You could say that, but the university wants that money to go to the university and not to the student athletes. That's why we've changed already from, what was it, One Arkansas to now it's the Edge Fund. And you're seeing a lot more thing about getting the ordinary, regular resident of Arkansas to donate $10, $20, than per se to having a big corporation.
So Uncle B, now with this latest Supreme Court ruling, again, it's an open market. It's an open market right now. But doesn't it come down to the haves and have-nots?
Oh, it's no doubt.
It's going to come down to the haves and have-nots.
No doubt about it. Yes, that's what it's going to come down to. Which programs are willing to give, and which programs are willing to invest into their collective groups. The rich are going to get richer. Right. And then I guess eventually what's really going to happen in the next 5-7 years, you're going to start seeing the top 50, 60 college programs are going to break off from the NCAA.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to pay their players, and then everybody else will be in that smaller mode where they won't pay the players, but the players will still have their NIL rights. But you're going to have the big boys.
Right.
They're going to have their own league, and they're going to be paying their players. And I'll tell you this.
Yeah. Talk to me.
I don't think Arkansas is going to be in that top 50, 60 program is going to pay players.
Really?
I don't.
With all the dollar that's around here, especially in like Northwest Arkansas and stuff like that, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
Why is that?
So. I just think the University of Arkansas believes in investing in buildings, and facilities, but they have not made a commitment to investing in human capital.
But they want to. One thing they want to invest in is winning. There's a lot of stuff going on because football team didn't pan out like we wanted it to. Basketball team is kind of rocky, roller coaster ride, and people are upset.
Hey, I'm a rankings guy. I believe in the numbers. Let's look up the top 25 collective group. Yeah. Our collective group.
We're not there.
In the top 25.
Yeah, we're not there.
Let's look at our recruiting classes. Are we bringing in the top players? You know. And if you have the top dollars, you get the top players.
But doesn't it come back to the creativity? Doesn't it come back to hiring people that understand NIL inside and out and coming up with creative ways to recruit those particular kids based upon NIL? Because NIL is going to be the deal.
The creativity has its place, but it all comes down to relationships. You know,
we talked about that.
And if we had a Frank Broyles still in office, and somebody that's got relationships with people all over the state, they talk about Harold Horton and those guys that were able to raise all this money because they had relationships.
Right.
But if you look at the University of Arkansas now, we don't have much Arkansas-bred people on campus now.
Right.
We don't have a lot of Arkansas-bred coaches on staff. You know, we don't have a lot of Arkansas people in the higher up administration.
But it doesn't sound like that the powers that be really dove in and took NIL serious on the front end.
Well, we're behind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like you said from
we're trying to play catch up
with our laws. Just think about it. We had an opportunity last March when our legislation was in session to change the rules to compete with what Tennessee was already doing, what Missouri was doing. And we decided not to.
We decided not to.
Yeah, because just think, if you can have NIL in high school, then you just start paying the players in high school. You get them committed earlier. You don't have all of this talent that we have in the state of Arkansas, but nobody's committed.
Yeah, we lost a couple of very, very highly talented players to Missouri in this football class. We did. I think the number 1 rated player in the state.
What's your thoughts on that with the NIL for high school kids? I know we kind of hinted around college, but high school kids. I have an opinion myself, but what are your thoughts on that and getting out of this old way of that we've been doing it and transitioning into a new way.
I think it should be allowed because to me, NIL is nothing but entrepreneurship.
Sure.
You could be the third string kicker at Little Rock Central, but you're a TikTok sensation.
Mm-hmm. You got a special talent.
You got a special talent.
That's
or you could be a young lady that's a makeup artist, but you happen to play basketball too. Now you're second string.
That's good. That'd be. I never thought about it like
you're
this.
second string. You're not going to college. You're not being recruited. You just want to play to stay healthy, to hang with your girls.
Right.
But I'm gonna be a makeup artist. But because I play for Little Rock Central or Little Rock Parkview or whatever, then I can't make money.
I can't benefit off my NIL.
Off my NIL or my God-given talent. And I just think that's not fair.
So how does that look if there was NIL, high school NIL? How does that look? What's a decent way to look at it and where it would make sense?
I mean, and you have to understand that not every high school kid or star is going to want to do NIL.
Sure.
I have a son that plays Division I football. He's never used social media, So he doesn't want to do commercials or anything. So not everybody is wanting to take advantage of it. So not everybody would, but I think the athletes that have parents that are entrepreneurs or gave them the entrepreneur spirit, they may say, hey, let's do a T-shirt line.
Right.
Let's do a clothing line. And I think nothing is wrong with that. It just gives athletes who have that entrepreneur spirit and just happen to be athletes, it gives them an opportunity to make a couple of bucks.
So, Uncle B, I want to ask you this here because you're giving us so much game. And I can see why they call you Uncle B now. Because you're giving us so much game. You have started what you call the NIL Academy. Because it sounds like you want to be the one in this state to give our young people the game. So tell us a little bit about the NIL Academy.
Yeah, I mean, the NIL Academy is something that we started last year. And I'm a firm believer that the game is 90% mental and 10% physical. So we spend a lot of time training our athletes physically, but we don't spend that much time training them mentally. Right. So if that 90% is mental, then why don't we have more facilities where our athletes can come in and train their brain? So I felt with NIL to open up an academy would give us an opportunity to teach young people about financial literacy, about being entrepreneurship, about building a brand, about how to conduct yourself, how to conduct an interview. And all of these are skills that even if they don't go to the NFL, we all know the NFL stands for not for long. You're
not for long.
You're not going to be a baller. You can't be a baller your whole life, but you can be a brand your whole life. And this gives us an opportunity at a young age to start talking to young people about financial literacy, paying taxes, saving money. What is an LLC? Building your brand, analytics, computer analytics, podcasts, how to speak, how to do an interview. We have all these great tournaments here in Arkansas, but how many of them at the end of that tournament, the MVP of those players sit behind a microphone, sit behind these bright lights,
can conduct themselves in an interview,
articulate themselves like that.
That's real.
That's more than just sports.
It's deeper than sports.
That's life.
It's life.
Yeah,
it's life.
It's not necessarily always just for a 16-year-old, 18-year-old. That's for a 32-year-old, right? It's about financial literacy and things of that nature. So yeah, I think that's big time.
Yeah. So
you say we. Is this your baby, or you have some other people involved?
It's my baby.
Okay.
It's my baby, but I have a lot of people who have always invested in me, who have always supported me, and so I like to use the word. And you can't do anything by yourself.
Right. You strike me as an innovator. I mean, here's the thing about it. We're talking a lot about NIL, but another innovative thing that you brought to the state that wasn't prevalent in the state is ranking high school basketball players. Tell us a little bit about that. What was your inspiration behind it? What was your motivation behind it? What was the reasoning behind that?
I mean, the reason behind Arkansas basketball rankings, I had always heard that Arkansas had good basketball. We always heard that we had good high school coaches. It was underrated. And so one day I was on Google, and like we didn't grow up in the social media era.
We did.
So we didn't have Google when we were in high school. But I was Googling one day, and I said, I want to find out who the top basketball players in Arkansas are. And I Googled top high school basketball players in Arkansas, and nothing popped up.
You couldn't find anything.
Couldn't find anything.
So that means our kids' names aren't being mentioned.
It wasn't
outside of our cities.
Outside of certain coaches' mouths.
Sure.
Or outside of our cities. We had
somebody's opinion.
It was somebody's, one or two people's opinion.
Okay.
And I knew that recruiting had changed. Yeah. I had been working in recruiting at that point for 15 years already. And I knew recruiting had changed from college coaches going to campuses, feeling the heartbeat of the athlete.
Going to practice.
And it went to being on social media.
Yeah.
And a lot of the recruiting, the initial recruiting was actually going on Twitter. And we had no Twitter presence.
Yeah, no presence. Yeah, correct.
We had no internet presence. And by Arkansas being a smaller market, what would our kids do? I remember talking to a parent one day, and they were playing AAU in Texas. And I said, why do y'all go to Texas? And they said, because you can get ranked. So these other states were doing other things to get you more exposure. So if you're a small...
He laughing. Let me just tell you something, Uncle B. So listen, on our last show... he laughing. On our last show...
I got a lot of stuff to say and ask, but yeah, no, go ahead.
On our last show, we talked about rankings, and we were talking more in why I felt like you shouldn't be ranking fourth graders and that sort of thing. And he delved into the fact that camps and that sort of thing is where kids should go and get themselves a little bit more exposure. So that's kind of where his laughing is coming from when you were saying that.
Yeah, no, on a lot of this stuff, right? Because I want you to be the one to give it to the people. But man, I have a lot of strong feelings about this stuff, man. You're right. Beautiful for this city and state.
I mean, it's awesome, man.
We have to get outside of our normal what we did when we were in high school. Because, like I've said before, that shit is played out.
He called the old school, old man thinking,
old
head thinking.
That shit is played out, right? We got to get to the point to where we get out of our comfort zone and push our kids in some different ways. What do you say to because I wanted to go in with the NIL, but we can go with this, to the person or the old head, the parent or the coach that says, "Oh, you don't need all that. You just got to do the work, or you just got to do this." So
I said a lot of that last week.
They'll find you under a rock.
Yeah, they'll find you anywhere, right? You know what I'm saying? So what do you say about today?
I mean, I say, and I look them in the eyes for 8 years that we did basketball rankings. I look them in the eye and say that my mentor told me that it's not about who's the best. It's about who they're talking about the most.
Wow.
Hold on. Say that one more time.
Say it again. I want you to say it again.
That is not about who's the best. It's about who they're talking about the most. And I think what parents forget a lot of the times, they only think as parents.
Yep.
They don't think as coaches. They don't think as athletic directors. And I hear people say all the time, rankings don't matter. This doesn't matter. Not to you.
Yep.
But if I'm a college coach, I have a boss. And I think we think, college coaches $5 million, $10 million a year, like they don't report to anybody.
Assistant coaches.
They report. The head coach reports to the athletic director.
That's correct.
So every kid that they sign has to go through the athletic director. So if I'm the coach at the University of Arkansas and I bring this kid, I got this kid, he's 6'5", he's 200, he's all conference, he's all state, and he's ranked number 15 in the state of Texas. And I bring that resume to my AD, and I have another kid that's 6'5", 200 from Arkansas. He's all conference, and he's all state, but there's no ranking. There's no number by his
He don't
name.
show up on nobody's list.
He doesn't look as attractive as the kid from Texas.
Sure. And so what happens also, too, with that, to add on to that, I can now, as the person that you're handing it to, the athletic department, I can take it and put that kid's name in lights.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're bringing in this 4-star. Hey, we're bringing in this kid. He's the 15th ranked kid in this place. Mm-hmm. And so now that gets your people excited, right?
And the media guys, make the media guys
sell more media guys. Wow, let's sell more season pack tickets because we're getting these particular players in, this caliber of player.
Mm-hmm.
Because back in the day, you'd have to wait till Streets and Smith and that type of shit come out in order to see a person's ranking and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you started your rankings in what year?
In 2015.
Okay.
And I mean, like, if you look at the growth of basketball in the state of Arkansas, starting with that 2015 class. Now, some of it, I mean, Malik Monk is Malik Monk. But he started in that class. But if you look at it, Arkansas, let's look at players in the NBA. We have more players in the NBA from Arkansas right now than we probably have had the last 30 years.
Long time.
Probably more
than ever. At one time. Like, when was the last time we had the number one player? When the last time we had 2 McDonald All-Americans at one high school? Mm-hmm. You know, if you think back to, and I know you're great with history, the history of basketball, and outside of that Parkview group, that with Flanagan and those guys.
Central group.
Yeah. When if there's ever been a group where they had 2 or 3 Division I players on one team? Every year, before the year 2015, every year, Arkansas averaged about 3 or 4 Division I basketball players.
In the whole state.
Since 2015, I bet you we've averaged 12 or 13. A lot of people don't know this, but a couple of years ago, we were number 1 in the country in producing Division I basketball.
Per capita.
We were number 3 in the country in producing NBA talent.
Yeah.
You know, and that comes from a state that, if it didn't come out of a couple of coaches' mouths beforehand, kids weren't getting scholarships. So the first 5 years we kept record of in the basketball ranking, there was 80 to 85 kids getting basketball scholarships every year. Now, of course, COVID, the transfer portal has damaged some of that.
Yeah.
But the basketball talent in Arkansas has always been good. But I like to say that Arkansas basketball ranking just plugged us in.
So the exposure, the kids feeling like, or their names being in lights, right? That's it. I can see it very good.
So, I mean, I applaud the innovation and that sort of thing. And we talked a little bit before we started taping. And I want you to let the people know, because I think sometimes, you know what I'm saying, I mean, with anything you do, I mean, just like what we're doing, we're going to always get some people that have some difference of opinion on what we're doing or what we're saying, so forth and so on. So with anything that you do, that you put your heart and your sweat equity in, you're going to have some people that have, well, he don't know what he talking about, or such.
Who is he to say that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Where did he play
give the people a little bit of background on how you guys went about your rankings, your combine, so forth and so on. So those that may not know, that you let them know. Let them know.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I'm a numbers guy.
Talk to me.
And I played football.
Right.
You know, so I was a football guy. And in football, combines were really big.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and numbers mean everything in football.
That's
you
right.
know,
your attributes.
Your 40 times.
Your attributes.
It's not about how good you can play football. It's about how fast you can play football.
Right.
And I noticed that one of the things that was missing in basketball was numbers. You know, there wasn't a lot of analytics in basketball. And that was one of the things where I was excited when Musselman first got the job, because I knew he was a quote-unquote
analytics guy.
You know, some coaches just go off skill. But what we were able to do is start doing combines, and we were able to go and get the numbers. I would say that our combines were like the ACT.
Okay.
You know, say like this kid at Parkview has a 3.0 GPA, and a kid at Central has a 3.0 GPA. Okay. People are gonna say, who's the smartest?
That's right.
You know, so the only way you could tell who's the smartest is to give them both the same standardized test. That's called the ACT. So once you give them the same standardized test, that ACT, even though both of them have the same GPA, that ACT is going to say, well, this kid's a little better in math, this kid's a little better in science, this kid's better in reading, because it breaks them down. And we saw combines as a way to break down athletes.
So you had combines.
Yeah.
Let the people know you had combines.
Across the state. In Northeast Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, South Arkansas, because we knew, you heard these horror stories of kids in South Arkansas or East Arkansas that were really good, but nobody heard about it.
Right.
Nobody knew about it.
Right.
So they didn't get on.
I remember
my thing was, we can cure this. Yeah. We'll just go to those places
to them
where those kids didn't have an
But
opportunity.
no, cause you doing that ain't nothing but a money grab. And he just trying to get your money. He charging.
He taking another dig at me, man.
He charging. No, I'm not. Wait. I'm not digging at you. I'm digging at that mindset of we did this before. You didn't need this back in 1987, so you don't need it now. That's what I'm digging into. Is people thinking outside the box. But to get there, you had to.
Parents don't think like that.
There's a lot of parents that think like that. There's a lot of outsiders that think like that.
I think there's more outsiders do.
Yeah, I respect that.
Because to me, parents want to do whatever it takes to get their kids.
And some parents don't think like that. Yeah.
But again, it goes back to this here. I mean, like I said, and Jason is, you know what I'm saying, he's, again, taking the dig, but it's cool. But here's the thing about it. What I hear is you giving a young person an opportunity. And anytime, I'm 100% across the board. If you giving a young person an opportunity, I'm all for it. Because again, that's what's lacking with our young people sometimes, is that they just don't get an opportunity. Now what you do with that opportunity, that's you.
So let me say this. And again, I'm not, but because I've dealt with some of this before, being innovative. I don't know if you remember back in 2018, 2017, I had an event called Who's Next. Right? It was a basketball tournament.
Yep.
And what was happening was I hired guys, people that I trusted, to watch that particular division. Let's just say the 6th grade division. I remember having Coach Reddy,
Coach D Reddy. What's up, D Reddy?
They were looking at a particular bunch, right? And so I remember inviting up teams from South Arkansas. I remember Strahan. That's when Chris Strahan was still alive. R.I.P. Coach Strahan, his whole thing down there in Magnolia. They brought the Darren Fords up. They brought some different people and things.
I remember
like
that.
And so what happened was I got a lot of strife of, man, you just doing this and numbers don't matter and things like that. But I remember when those lists came out, people took great pride in seeing
their kid on the list.
And then it was a small 2 or 3 sentence line about what that kid did, right? So I think more of that type of stuff needs to go about. Now I understand what you're going through or what you went through, because people are quickly throw on there, oh, it's a money grab, or oh, it's this or it's that.
Why this kid ain't ranked and this kid ain't ranked.
But you have to go through the process. You have to put the things in place and then work out the kinks as you go.
And the only way to not have people talk about you is to not do anything.
Yeah.
So if you,
that means you ain't doing nothing if ain't nobody talking about you.
People are gonna talk.
Right.
And I will tell you this, like, it was a song that said people talk in a safe place. But when I would go to the gyms, I would hear a lot of noise. But when I would go to the gym, everybody wanted to be my friend. Everybody wanted to talk.
You come look at this. Come look at this place.
Because you can move from 7 to 4 if you just cool with Uncle B.
Well, I'm not gonna say that, but I mean, people really. There were a lot more people that appreciated that did not appreciate.
Right.
Let's just say that.
That's real. So 2015 into
last year. So 8 years.
8 years.
A long 8 years.
Long 8 years.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
And we give you your praise and your props for that, man. Yeah, because being an innovator is always tough. Man.
That's what I'm saying.
It's tough being first.
That's what I'm saying.
Being first, but we had some great AAU directors at the time, because it doesn't work if the AAU directors don't buy in.
Right, because they bring in their kids.
Because they're bringing their kids, and they could easily say, "No, we're not going to do
doing that."
Because it's a money grab.
Because it's a money grab. But they understood, a good AAU director understood getting their kids more exposure.
Right.
They would want to do anything they could to help their kids get more exposure, because it meant more scholarship. Right.
So yeah, my next question would be, you know what I'm saying, you said 8 years in the rankings and that sort of thing. You guys have been doing it for 8 years, your group. They're doing your combines and that sort of thing. Anybody, any name or any kid that stuck out, or maybe you just might have not ranked as high as you felt like they end up panning out to be, or maybe somebody you ranked and they necessarily didn't pan out. You know what I'm saying? Those sorts of, anybody just kind of jump out to you?
I mean that's a great question. And the first name that comes to mind is Austin Reed.
Oh wow!
That
cat in the NBA, man.
LA Laker Austin Reed.
We did not have Austin Reed that high. Now, of course, everybody knew of Austin because of the shootout that he had with R.J. Glasper.
Right,
I don't know if
right.
you guys remember that. I think he had like 50, 66 points.
He had 60-some odd points.
And RJ had 60-some points, double overtime game. So, I mean that's a cat when we were talking about our 5th anniversary, all-anniversary team. And
he would make the team.
He didn't. We went with Khalil Gardner.
Okay.
You know, but Austin Reeves would be the first name that comes to mind. And
now Khalil a player too. Now let's not get it twisted.
RJ Glasper was a player.
RJ Glasper was a player, and the next name that comes to mind, because RJ was great, but would be what's my kid that's at Kansas State right now?
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry.
Oh, wow.
Now we had Tyler Perry ranked, but he was like number 9 or number 10. Okay. And I think if you go back and look at it, where he finished his career, he would probably be in the top 5. You know, but you got some guys like that, and that's because like you got some guys that are great high school players, but not you don't necessarily deem them or be a college prospect.
You don't see them. You don't see him at the next level, like you say, a prospect.
Yeah, but you can't measure a kid's heart.
You can't.
Tyler Perry's all heart.
He is a baller, man. That dude there he's a baller.
So what do you look for when you're evaluating a kid and you're saying, because you're it's not necessarily about all right now, right? There's some potential mixed in there too, right? So how do you give me your formula?
I mean, you're looking at there's not one set formula.
Okay.
You know, and but to me, a lot of it is mental.
Sure. And
people may not believe it or not, but I could go to the gym and I could look at a kid, you know, or I could look at little things like shoestrings being too long,
right?
Or how a kid comes off the bench, or what type of attitude he has. There's a lot that goes into being a college prospect. Yeah. Now you can go to the gym and see a good high school player and he's just getting buckets. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to translate to the next level. He may go to a college that don't need him to get buckets.
And you know what? You make a good point, Uncle B, because me and Jason talk about this too, and I say this all the time because again, what we see on TV or what just your layman fan goes and sit at the game and watch the game don't necessarily translate to the next level. I tell anybody, you want to know whether a kid can play, ask a referee. And the reason why I say that is because the referee's on the floor. The referee can gauge a kid's lateral quickness. He can gauge a kid's strength. He can gauge a kid's interaction with his teammates. He can gauge a kid's interaction with his coach. You get what I'm saying? His mental. Because we're right out there. His maturity. We're right out there with the kids for 40 minutes, 32 minutes every night. You get what I'm saying? So I tell people all the time, you want to know whether a kid can play when you just ask me about an individual kid? Ask the referee.
Yeah, because college basketball isn't about putting an orange ball in through a basket. There's a lot more that goes into it. You got to go to class. You got to be able to say no to drugs. You got to be able to say no to girls. You got to be. It's about discipline. It's the same thing that says that this kid has a 3.8 GPA. Then this kid's gonna have a 30 ACT or 25. That doesn't mean that.
Translate all the time.
It doesn't translate all the time.
That's right.
And the same thing with athletics, because it's what's between the head. Is he gonna be disciplined? Is he coachable?
Yeah, and it's measurables too. Because here's the thing about it: the media guy may say he's 6'5", but I walk on the floor every night and I'm looking at it and I'm like, no. I was telling Jason in one of my earlier shows. That's one of the things about Terrion Burgess that I noticed the first time I had him this year. He's a legitimate 6'10". He's grown. He's grown. You get what I'm saying? So I'm going to see a kid every single night, and I'm going to be able to tell you whether that kid can play or not.
And I'm going to tell you something else you'll see with Terrion Burgess.
Talk to me.
He's very mature.
He is.
You don't see him complaining about calls.
He just play.
You don't see him talking to teammates. You don't see him trying to intimidate anybody. He just plays the game of basketball. And that maturity level helps you when you get to the next level.
That's a fact.
I look at a lot of those. You made a statement earlier on about getting buckets, right? And that's one of those things that really irks me so many different things that come into the game of basketball. And it's refreshing to hear you say that about maturity level, about, how you communicate with your teammates, all that type of stuff. Speak to the fullness of game, how you rank kids or look at kids potential-wise off the fullness of their game, not just scoring basketball.
Yeah, just the overall thing, man. I was talking to a dad a couple of weeks ago, and his son is being looked at by some NBA scouts. Okay. And he was talking to an NBA scout, and the scout told his dad, he said, you know what the NBA is looking for? They're looking for somebody that can defend multiple positions and that can rebound. And I said, wow. Because most parents are only looking for somebody that can get buckets.
They can score.
We only look at that stat and say, well, he only scored 12 points. Yeah. And like that means something. But we're not looking at if he defended multiple positions. If he deflected a pass. We see blocks, but the NBA count deflects.
Sure.
That's right.
So there are a lot of things that the NBA is looking for, or college coaches are looking for, because they're professionals.
Did he make a mistake in powder? Did he make a mistake and get his ass back on defense and make an impact on the next play?
Those are things that you can't see with the natural eye.
Sure. That's a fact.
You have to be a professional. And most parents, most people that go to the gym, they just, with the regular eye, they just want to see who got the most buckets.
They want to see the tween cross.
They want to see that.
Spin.
They want to see all of that, and that doesn't necessarily translate, because what if you go to a team or organization that's got a James Harden or a Kobe Bryant, and I'm gonna give you a prime example of that. Mason Jones.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Mason Jones. Look at Mason Jones' career when he got into the NBA. He was with Houston.
Right.
He led the NBA in preseason in scoring.
He did.
And he got released.
Right.
You know why? Because he was a rookie and he wasn't supposed to come in and just get buckets. So they shipped him to Philadelphia.
Right.
Well, Isaiah Joe's there. He was his teammate in college. He can control him.
Yeah.
He couldn't.
Right.
He's wired to get buckets.
He's wired to score.
Now, 3 years later,
he's on a Netflix series.
He's back on an NBA roster.
Good for him.
He's not playing, but they're talking about what type of teammate he is.
Good for him.
He finally got it.
Good for him.
I'm sorry. No, finish it.
And a lot of our parents need to get that.
Yeah.
Now, that is not all about buckets.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's so
that's
many
so
different
real, man.
things that NBA guys are looking for, and not just about who gets the most buckets.
And not even NBA. Go back to college.
College, yeah.
And even high school.
Yeah.
Like, thinking about the smaller grassroots, the younger kids, thinking about, man, hey, how they so wired to score the basketball. Then you get to a place where if you're playing with talent, you might not need you to score the basketball. Right? And then, so, like, and I'm kind of paralleling a couple of your things you said, like a 3.8 at Parkview versus a 3.8 at Central, right? This kid over here is scoring 12 points a game with a team that has 4 D1 players versus the kid over here that's scoring 18 a game, and it's only him. I'll take the 12 all day long before I take the 18 because that kid probably seems to know how to fit, how to play within his role, and then also how to maximize his talent within what he has.
Because for the most part, that college roster is going to be built like that, or that NBA roster is going to be built like that, to where he's going to have to be a piece to a puzzle. He's not going to just come in there and score 20 or score 18. He's going to be the 9 points, 6 assists guy on the team.
And can he mentally
handle that? And then also, too, peep this. Can the parent mentally handle that?
Right.
Yeah, because the parent, you got to get in the portal.
Yeah.
You got to lead. You got to do this. You got to do that. I've seen that happen as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So I hear you say this a lot about prospect. Let's delve into a little bit about the difference between a player, a kid, a player, and a prospect. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, a prospect, and I got that from my mentor, Fitz Hill.
Okay.
And on the
shout out Fitz Hill, man.
Shout out Coach Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill, cracking.
Yeah.
But Fitz Hill would have this thing called projecting a Razorback chart. You know,
and people forget Fitzhill was a college coach on a major college level for numerous years. So he understands.
He was the third black male to be a Division I football coach.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
People forget that.
Yeah. So he had this chart, and he would break it down and say, if you're a running back, we want our ideal running back to be 6'1". So if you're 6'1", you get 4 points. If you're 6 foot, you get 3 points. If you're 5'11", you get 2 points. We want our ideal running back to run 4.4. So if you're 4.4, you get 5 points.
Right.
If you're 4.5, you get 3 points. So breaking it down. So when you look at what's a prospect, you take out what you want to look at, what you want to identify. Is if it's rebounding, if it's shooting, if it's jumping. Because see, a lot of people think that sports is about, just like we say, getting buckets or scoring touchdowns. And like I said, with football, it's not about how good you can play, it's how fast you can play.
One of the, I'm not to interrupt you, but
I like that
point. One of the things, one of my pet peeves about young people, and I'm speaking to young people when I say this. When I see a young person, whether it's grassroots, AAU, high school, or whatever, when I see a young person, before they even get done with the game and shaking hands with the other players, they want to see the freaking stat book. How many points I have, and that sort of thing. Not go celebrate with your team. Not go, you know what I'm saying? Give respect to the other team or whatever. You worried about what the stat book looked like. You get what I'm saying? Or you got the parent up in the...
they looking for.
It's the points.
How many points?
How many points did I score?
Yeah. Not how many different ways I affect the game.
You done turned the ball over 9 times, but you worried about how many points you scored.
There will be things that you will learn in the next 3 years about basketball that me or him may never learn because of the opportunity of people that will be talking to you. Professional.
Correct.
We always say, I think, to be a professional, it takes 10,000 hours. But think about the people that spend hundreds of thousands of hours. They're going to look at it differently.
Completely different
than what somebody else is. They're going to break down so many different aspects of your son's game that you never really thought about.
Yeah, break it all the way down.
And we like I said, we're going to look at blocks. They're going to look at the flex. We're going to look at assists. They're going to look at potential assists.
Yeah,
like somebody should have made this, or he made the right basketball play.
Right.
When you look at, one of my favorite basketball players to come through the last few years, Bryson Warren.
One of my favorites as well.
He was so efficient.
Right.
And it wasn't about if Bryson made a bucket. It's about how he made the bucket.
Right.
Like if it takes you 25 shots to get 25 points, and this kid is getting 25 points on 10 shots.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it. People don't understand this here too, and Bryson is one of my favorite players to come through the state in a long time. And I tell people this all the time. I argue back and forth with my homeboys and that sort of thing. When Bryson was in the 10th grade, his last year's playing in the state of Arkansas, he averaged almost 25 points a game, but he shot over 50% from the field from a guard position. Yeah. We talk about somebody that had the ball in his hands all the time, and he averaged almost 25 points a game and shot over 50% from the field. That means every 2 shots he took, he hit one of them.
Very efficient.
He hit one of them. Absolutely.
Because college coaches, we can go to a basketball game, and you can see with those shots that the kids make, the off balance, or falling off, and everybody say, ooh. A college coach is going to look at this and say, that's not a good shot.
Yeah.
That's not a good shot.
Right.
If you're saying ooh or wow, a college coach is saying, hey, that's not a good shot. They want you to take a good shot, or you could have a good shot, but pass it up for a better shot.
Yeah,
most kids don't get that.
So when I was over there at Little Rock, UALR, that was one of our mottos. Shields would always preach that: pass up a good shot for a better shot. Right. So I hear exactly what you're saying. That pass up that good shot for a better shot. Swing. Don't just swing one time. If that guy in the corner is there and he's wide open, go ahead and get it there.
Right. Because the coaches noticed that. The coaches noticed the fact that you're making that extra pass, or you saw your teammate, or you upset if you know what I'm saying, for some reason or another, you didn't see him in time and you didn't pass it to him, and you let him know the next time that's my bad because I should have hit you. You get what I'm saying?
Or you hit him outside of his pocket.
Yeah, you hit him outside of his pocket.
You didn't give him a chance to make the shot, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the perfectionist in people, that stands out a lot.
That's real. So tell us what's going on with you right now. Tell us what's going on with Uncle B right now, what he's doing right now, how he's impacting the state, because we're learning so much. I've learned so much today about Uncle B. You get what I'm saying? That I didn't know. That's going on right now. What we got going on right now?
I mean, right now, I'm totally into NIL.
Right.
You know, I've sold the basketball rankings and got rid of those type of things, and I'm totally focused on NIL because all of my life I've heard Arkansas is behind in this. We're last in this. We're last in that, and I didn't know why because I mean I wasn't around when it started, but with NIL, it started 3 years ago. I was an adult. I was a gatekeeper in Arkansas.
Right.
So I know why we're falling behind in NIL. When I didn't know why we fell behind in obesity or reading or whatever. But I know why we falling behind in NIL. I want to make sure that Arkansas is up front with NIL because I believe that NIL is generational changing. I believe that there's generational wealth inside NIL. So I spend all of my time focused on NIL. I'm doing. Not only do I have the academy, I have a website, ArkansasAthleteConnection.com, which is like a booking agency.
Say that again for us, Coach.
It's ArkansasAthleteConnection.com.
We're gonna have it right. It's gonna pop up right here.
Yeah.
Y'all see that right there.
Yeah. So it's a booking agency for Arkansas athletes, and we connect Arkansas athletes with Arkansas companies or organizations or schools or whatever. And then I'm also doing the Arkansas high school NIL evaluation.
Oh wow! I saw that. Tell us a little bit about that, Coach. Uncle B.
It's all about letting high school kids in Arkansas
know what their value is.
Knowing what their value is.
Wow.
You know.
Wow. Knowing what their value is. That's bigger than just that's bigger than that because I think that's what our young people struggle with sometimes. We struggle with as a people.
Yeah.
It's not understanding and not realizing what our value is.
You came out with that list not too long ago, right?
I did.
Not realizing.
Can they find that list on that same site?
They can find that list on the same site. Arkansas Athlete Connection is there. And when we talk about a kid's NIL value,
right?
And I think there's 4 things that determines a kid's NIL value.
Okay.
And it's funny because the same 4 things that determines a kid's NIL value will also help them in recruiting.
Yeah.
So there's a correlation between recruiting and NIL. And that's first is production.
Okay.
You got to produce. Number 2 is exposure.
Yep.
How many people know that you're producing?
That's Jason's word, exposure.
You know, so production is number 1, unless you're pretty. The girl at LSU, the gymnast, I think she's proved that you're pretty.
Yeah, she can
overdo.
No doubt.
But production is 1. Number 2 is exposure. Number 3 is influence. Can you influence people to come to your game? Can you influence people to wear your merchandise? Can you influence people to offer you a scholarship? Same thing.
Right.
And then the 4th thing is
relationships.
And those 4 things will determine your athlete's NIL evaluation, and that's how we come up with what an athlete is worth.
Now, Coach, and that's great, man.
That is.
That.
I promise I didn't know.
I hope y'all got your pens and pads and stuff, writing this stuff down. As a parent, what of a prospect, not just a player, because there's a lot of players out there, but then there's a select group of prospects. What are some things that parents should be doing, whether it be on the court or off the court? What are some of the things that we could be doing to help our student athlete, or even hurt our student athlete?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you can do to help the student athlete is to get as much information as possible. There's a scripture that says a wise man seeks counsel.
Exactly.
So talk to wise counsel. And there's also a scripture that says that the people perish for the lack of knowledge. So become as knowledgeable as possible about the process. People used to say, I used to hate it too. Trust the process. Well, how do you trust?
What's the process? What's the process? My person is my trust. And the people that I'm following, do they have a process?
And every process is different.
That's right.
You got to know the process.
So you got to know it. So finding
That's
out
real.
that information,
vision.
you know, talking to people who have been there, done that, you know, and talking to knowledgeable people. So the first thing I would tell parents is go out and try to get as much information about it. Train your brain. Right. You know, train your brain. Find out as much about the recruiting process, and not just people that are trying to get something from you. A coach or something like that. Your kid play for this coach, or this coach is trying to recruit you. Go talk to some opposing coaches.
Yeah.
Go talk to some college coaches.
Now you talking.
Find out about somebody that doesn't need anything.
No salt in the game.
No salt in the game. That will tell you the unadulterated
the real. Yeah. The real.
Give me some not so good. Because you hear a lot of them screaming, shoot the ball.
Stay. When you put your child on a team, let the coach be the coach. Mm-hmm. You can't be the parent and the coach.
Can't do it.
And parents hurt their children so much by thinking they know. You know, I've been at a game sitting with parents, and the coach is like, hey, we're going to stall the ball, so we want to pass it 5 times. We want to milk a little clock. Yeah. But parents are saying, shoot the ball, shoot the ball, because you're open. Yeah. When you don't know, there's a scheme behind it.
Yeah.
You know, let the coaches be the coaches. If you entrust the coach in having your son, let the coaches be the coaches. You know, be quiet.
Let me tell you something.
And stop thinking you know everything.
I'm on the floor every night, and I see some nightmares as far as parents and their effect on their young person as they're trying to play the game.
They're focused on their kids.
Yeah.
When as a parent, you should be focused on doing what your role is.
That's right.
You have a
cheering
role
for your son or daughter.
Focus on that. Let the coach be the coach. Let the kid be the kid, and you be the parent.
Right. I'm gonna share a horror story with you, that I saw in youth basketball, and this was way back. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, I do a lot of things with the boys club, and you know, I see kids at 5, 6, 7 years old. You know what I'm saying, and that sort of thing. And I saw a parent one time. This is a true story. He or she was coaching his son. And his son wasn't playing well in the first half. And his words were, if you don't do such and such, I'm going to take you to the car and I'm going to do something to you. So let me ask you this here. I'm going to ask you guys, you parents, you got sons, you got daughters, so forth and so on. What do you expect that kid's going to do in the second half if you go and kick his ass in the first half? Do you think he's going to play better?
No.
Do you think he's going to play better?
Mentally, he's going to be thrown.
He's going to be totally screwed. So, of course, this kid come back to the second half, and he played just as bad as he played in the first half. Mm-hmm. But it just amazes me sometimes that some of the things that come out of parents' mouth when it comes to their young people as far as youth sports is concerned. Not only toward their kids, but towards other kids.
Let me give you this, Reg, and I'm not begging to differ.
Right.
I'm saying this. It works. I hadn't done it, but I've seen it work before.
Okay.
I've seen it work before, but they're taking the win today, and they're getting the L later on.
They're getting the L later on.
Because here's the deal: that 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, they're gonna listen, they're gonna cry, they're gonna get out there and give it their all, and they're gonna take that energy that they got for you or from you,
because they're impressionable at the time,
right? And they're gonna put that on that kid's face.
Right.
That on that kid's face, and they're gonna destroy that kid sometimes.
Sometimes.
But here's what happens too, B. When that kid's 15, 16, your relationship is done.
Yeah. With your own child.
So there's some people out there that are doing
That's
it
real.
right now. They're doing it right now. I've even heard somebody take a kid under the bleachers.
That's real.
The kid come out and he probably scored 15, 20 the second half. Mm-hmm. But guess what? Him and that kid, and I know exactly who they are. They don't have any kind of relationship.
They don't have a relationship.
Right? Because that kid remembers that.
Yeah, they don't have a relationship.
You know what I'm saying? So what I suggest in that situation is, man, you can communicate with your kids. It don't have to always be cupcakes and roses.
That's
and
real.
Everybody smiling. You
That's
can
real.
cussing, do all that stuff. But you better make sure that kid understands that, man, this is the game.
Right.
And regardless, if however it turns out today, then you got to stay locked in. You see what I'm saying?
That's right. But I tie all that into this and just talking with Uncle B. I tied into the fact that you are one of the gatekeepers of keeping it real. And a lot of times parents aren't open to real. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? They're not open to what's real, what's realistic. Because here's the thing about it. You can have the most lofty aspirations for your kid. And sometimes that lofty aspiration ends up clicking and that kid makes it to whatever level that you may, so forth and so on, have for them. But you also have to be real. And when somebody gives you some real information, if you're not open to that real information, then you're going to be a detriment in the long run to that kid's maturation.
And one of the best advice I've gotten in the last couple of years, it was a high school coach that told me. He told me this on Facebook. Right. He said, Byron, be careful of calling out the clown. Right. Because it's a lot of parents that enjoy being a part of the circus.
That's it. Wow. Say they enjoy being a part of the circus.
He said, be careful calling out the clowns because there are a lot of parents that enjoy being a part of the circus.
Oh, wow. I'm not sure we can top that one, Jay.
Yeah, that one's tough. I had a lot of thoughts about that.
That's real. That's one you have to think about.
Well, I mean, people are in love with drama. People are in love with they're in love with how they feel versus right now versus tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Right now is the most important thing. And I'm getting embarrassed because my kid ain't playing well, so I got to make a theatrical show.
A shit show.
Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, man. Yeah,
that's a shit show.
That's real. Yeah, but for somebody, a parent that's serious about developing their child, not just an NBA player, but as a man.
Yep. As a human being, as a decent human being.
It's no circus.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's no game.
No doubt. And it's cool to have expectations. It's cool to expect a lot out of people that are around and with your kid, in the circles that they're in, especially if that kid is taking it to the next level.
So yeah, man, we could continue to talk. We probably could talk for 2 or 3 hours, but the production team, which consists of me and Jay, won't allow that. Uncle B, just tell people how they can reach you, man. Give any shout outs or anything you want to share before we sign off for today.
Hey man, I just want to say shout out to all the parents, the people in Arkansas. I want you to know
that's real,
especially the basketball. Arkansas is a basketball state,
and that's what we're here for because we want to put on for the state.
And the grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence. Mm-hmm. But if you really take and look at the valuation of how many kids are being helped in Arkansas and the great fathers that we got, I mean, there's a lot of great basketball dads, basketball moms,
absolutely.
Football. There was a part where they were saying that you don't see dads involved. You don't see that in Arkansas basketball.
We're around.
We're around. So, man, shout out to all the parents and players.
That's real.
We're doing a great job. We'll sit here in debate with no pause.
Real.
But when you really think about it, a lot of young people are being helped in the state of Arkansas through basketball. And I just want to encourage everybody, let's just keep moving forward.
And that's one of the reasons why we're here, because we want to put in on for the state. We want to continue to put on for the state and continue to put out good information and just good stuff, good positive energy about our young people. Because myself, and I don't know whether you know this or not, me and Jason have a lot of things in common. We just kind of stumbled across each other some years ago and become really, really good friends. But a lot of things that we've done in the past have been what we've given our time and our effort into young people. He actually put time into my son. You get what I'm saying? My son was in his youth program. You get what I'm saying? So we're going to always put on for the young people and do what's best for the young people. So that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. That's why, you know what I'm saying, I'm glad we got an opportunity to have you on the show. Definitely an inspiration. Definitely learned so much that I didn't know about Uncle B, and hopefully we about Unc, and hopefully we continue to, you know what I'm saying, do different things and, man, just collaborate on some stuff and bounce some ideas off one another and just keep on doing it for the state and keep on doing it for these young people, man, because they need it. They need it. Exactly. That's real.
So again, we appreciate it, man. Thank you for showing up, man. Of course, there's other things we could talk about, some disagreements that we text back and forth.
You got your notes over there, Jay.
I'm prepared. We could have went there today. But no,
we got to get him back on.
We got to get him back on at some point, man. But no, these great relationships where we, like Greg said, bouncing stuff and ideas, and then also being able to see it from a different angle.
Right.
What I value and I think you do as well.
Right.
And so, man, thank you again. Any shout outs before we
go?
Man,
I just want to say thanks, man, for allowing me to be the first.
Yeah. The first one, man.
The first one. Like Alpha was the first fraternity.
Oh, wow.
I was the first guest.
Oh, wow.
On No Pause.
Oh, wow.
Podcast. I appreciate it.
Uncle B, you going to go there?
Hey, you saw the Super Bowl, didn't you? You see them boys at the Super Bowl with Usher? Huh?
Man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in to us and just basically tolerating us and that sort of thing. Signing off, JayNReg, and again, Uncle B for coming through and blessing us with his presence, brother. Appreciate that.
Yo to the good brothers.